So, hey
I'm just watching
everyone,
on something.
happy
Oh,
Friday. Joined by Carlos. We're going to do the official start in just a minute. But we were chatting about the Zcash podcast that I host. It was last weekend. It's the third Friday of every month. And about how that draws in a whole lot of like new people to Zcash because there's been like the same hardcore group of Zcashers have been in there for a while, and it hasn't necessarily been as much growth as one would have like hoped for. However, I think that that's kind of interesting because I did notice something, and this is actually what got me like interested. Right, was right around. I remember in the beginning, it's always been tricky to do privacy on mobile trustlessly. Usually you have to just expose your privacy to the node. And there's been a bunch of this was back in the old days, by the way. I know this is very different today. A lot of advancements have happened. But before it was very difficult. And I remember when Zcash was first founded, one of my friends made a shielded transaction to buy something in a store, but he had to have his laptop there with a command line wallet and was just typing in some stuff, and it took like 10 minutes to like generate the proof and then send it out. So we've come far from there. Where I started to pay attention to Zcash a lot more, I always watched it in the corner, was when first of all, Naomi Brockwell kind of pushed it on me a lot. And so I was like, it kind of got me to look more. But also, it's when they managed to do the proofs on mobile so that so that you could actually generate shielded encrypted transactions on mobile devices without a problem. And that was like, oh, okay. This isn't just like theoretical. This is something that people can use to obtain high level privacy without, without anything, without like a lot of compromises. And then when they removed the trusted setup from the Orchard pool, and that was another big, all the cypherpunks like, oh yeah, trust these people and all this stuff. And then when that was no longer a thing, now it's like, okay, this is some good positive momentum. And in my view, one of the reasons why we haven't seen a huge explosion in Zcash usage, or I wouldn't say huge, but a growth, has been because there's been an ongoing spam attack that has kind of made it hard to transact on mobile, and that's in the process of being fixed over the next few weeks. But in the meantime, it's been hard to get mobile wallets to sync. And so because of that, I think it's a lot of people have kind of like backed off again. So that's just kind of my perspective on that.
I don't know, like, one thing that you have to say about Zcashers is that they don't seem to fall out of love with Zcash. Like, whoever gets absorbed into Zcash tends to continue to like it and follow it
Yeah.
for however long they stick around. I think for me personally, what I like been skeptic about regarding Zcash, it's always been that they seem to come across with these breakthroughs or these developments, but don't really seem to apply them to their
Yeah.
own product. Which, in particular, the multi-asset shielded pools, it's something that they never really quite developed, and there are other people taking and building upon. But yeah, it's a quite an interesting approach.
Yeah, it definitely is. So one last thing before we, I guess, get started, like the main part of things. First of all, everyone, let me know if the sound's okay, everything's working out. The other thing you mentioned, you said like you've been doing this podcast for a while, and yeah, kind of. This specific news show is episode 108, so that's 108 weeks in a row. But there was a couple of weeks that I missed because of like one time some guest bailed on me. I couldn't do it. I think once or twice that might have happened, but then the rest I had some really bad internet issues when I moved to the house before I got everything fixed, and so I just didn't do live shows for like a few weeks. But other than that, it's been over 2 years of just this show. But as far as this channel is concerned, I started back when I was doing full-time stuff with Dash. I started a Dash podcast, or me and two other guys started it, right, on the Dash News channel. I just looked this up, and that was May of 2017. So almost 6 years ago. And so we
Oh
just
wow!
kept doing the Dash podcast. And then at the end of 2019, we shut down that project, but I wanted to keep on doing the show. So I just started this channel initially just to continue doing the Dash podcast and then do other things on it. And so the first Dash podcast on this channel was not number one. And which, by the way, in about 40 minutes, I can't remember I think it's episode 203 of the Dash podcast, which now I do every month. It used to be a weekly thing, then it was every 2 weeks. Now I figure it's really good if I just do it once a month. So just for the, sorry to bore everyone on this because we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, but every third Friday, so this show is every week, every Friday. Every third Friday after that, there's a Zcash podcast. And then every fourth Friday, last Friday of the month, there's a Dash podcast right after this one. So that's kind of a good schedule. I've stuck with it, and it's been working so far.
It's a lot of podcasting, man. I saw that picture that you posted of yourself going to a Dash convention like 6 years ago as well. You haven't changed that much, man. Like you look basically the same.
Thank you for saying that. I don't always feel the same way. But yeah, I mean, I got as something that keeps coming up on this every time you're on the show. It's the reverse Hoskinson, where
I was just about to ask you if you had any updates on what Charles Hoskinson has been up to, because he's been quiet for a while. Cardano has been quiet for a while.
Yeah, there's some drama recently from what I heard in the community over basically forcing people to vote. So if they don't vote in government's proposals, like they don't get their staking rewards or something like that.
Oh.
And it's a lot of people are getting very upset about it. And I don't know if it's happening, but it's being discussed. But at some point, I am going to get him on this show and then just ask him at some point randomly in the middle of it where he can't storm off. Be like, so you're like actually younger than me. What's up with that? See what he says. Okay.
He's probably got something ready for that.
Maybe. I mean,
it's gonna be in the back of his mind for years, just like waiting for the right moment.
Last funny age-related thing before we switch to the actual intro. I'm sorry, people. Is Peter McCormack? One time I was beefing with him on Twitter because he said something dumb. He said that I looked older than him, which I think
Peter McCormack.
Yeah, which he must have clicked at the wrong picture, or maybe he was being insecure. But he looks like he could be easily my dad, if not. Well, let's just settle on my dad. So anyway,
let me get an updated picture of Peter McCormack because I don't remember what he looks like, but he doesn't look young like at all.
No, his podcast. I was just actually watching the only episode of his podcast I've ever watched. I'm almost done with because it's Sergey Kotliar of BitRefill on, and that guy is just so great that I will even watch Peter McCormack's show. Which is, by the way, it's an actually good show. I just don't really like the guy too much, but no denying that the show is actually good. All right, let me actually roll the intro while you're looking this up, and let's go. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Sorry for the long delay. We just bantered a little too long. This is Digital Couch Rundown, episode 108 already. Been doing this for over 2 years, and as I mentioned earlier, been doing the A show that was on this channel at least for like 6 years now. And so anyway, I'm joined by the one and only Carlos Cano. How's it going, man?
What's up? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Not as good as Peter McCormack is doing lately, but pretty good.
Hey, that's always good to have a nice little in joke there. So obviously, if you're in the I already got an NFT super chat. He said, I was going to say, if you have my NFT, you can give a super chat, which SVN just said sounding good because earlier I had asked, how's the sound? Anyway, so we have a good show. This is probably the first show where I'm trying to make it about one issue instead of just like throw a couple headlines, even though we're going to go over a bunch of things. So let's just jump right into it. Everyone's favorite person, Elizabeth Warren. So Elizabeth Warren, the U.S. Senator, says, like, I'm joining this fight to put our government on the side of working family, whatever commie propaganda she has. It says, and it, as one of her things says, Elizabeth Warren is building an anti-crypto army. So,
what the hell is that even supposed to mean? Like,
yeah.
what's she trying to elicit there? I don't imagine there being like enough people that hate crypto with passion to make that like the foundation of your demographic that you're trying to appeal to, man. It just sounds stupid.
Yeah, it's very strange because it kind of reminds me of when Bernie Sanders was beefing with deodorant. Because I don't know if you remember that, but it was
No.
he was angry because he's Bernie, but he was angry because the free market had produced so many different choices for deodorant. If you want to use deodorant, there's like 800. We don't need that many choices. We should have more money, working fam, whatever. But it like didn't see that like market choice was a good thing and wasn't that having 5 different kinds of deodorant in my style that I like is somehow not stealing from working families. Just couldn't figure it out. And so I think I don't know, anti-crypto army. Well, first of all, what we're going for here with the message, I guess, who doesn't like crypto? Who of the people, the voters, doesn't like crypto? Probably no one, unless you got hurt by FTX or any of those exchanges that went down.
And even in that case, you would think like the people that got hurt by FTX at some point like crypto. So I'm not sure that they are really looking for an army to go and destroy the whole thing. That has to be like something to appeal to her fellow crazy people in the regulation room, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's the whole anti-crypto thing. It's not something that any average voters care about, right? It's something that only a certain amount of people, either it's the crazy base, right? The hardcore political core group of supporters, not voter. You can't win an election just on those, but it's like getting the radicals to like care about you is by saying, look, I'm against this techno bro, like tech bro, kill the environment, unfettered capitalism, scammy stuff. But more importantly, it's a sign towards the people with money, i.e. the people that, ironically, SBF gave to. It's a sign of saying to the bankers, I'm on your side. You give to my campaign. You pull your strings, and I will block as many crypto innovations as I can so you guys can stay in power. That's really what it's about. It's crazy that it's being done publicly as part of a campaign and not behind closed doors, though.
That's the crazy thing because, okay, like if you're doing it publicly, unless you're just very bad at this stuff and you're just making it up as you go, you're trying to elicit some kind of public reaction. And maybe that's even, now that I think about it, maybe that's even like trying to get the crypto bros to talk about it. And like send a strong signal of like, okay, these people that we're trying to hurt or choke, are actually hating on these senators. So yeah, she's got momentum going.
Yeah.
Could be like I don't see even the choice of words army like what are you supposed to what's that army supposed to look like in your mind? Because you don't imagine just a bunch of people with guns, right? So what do you imagine? Like a bunch of nerds in a basement?
But like, I mean, honestly, probably a bunch of like IRS agents and SEC fit lawyers and stuff like that. That's the real answer. But what I guess what she's trying to elicit is like the people's army, people with like signs and stuff saying like, "Aren't a coin bad?" and all that stuff. So I got a super chat from SVN, which doesn't because it's an image, it doesn't show up in the super chat. So I'm just gonna throw that up on the screen next. A funny meme about this. Elizabeth Warren is Craig S. Wright.
Is what?
Is Craig Wright.
Oh, okay, could be.
Just which I mean, I have to say there is a lot of parallel because a big hallmark. I would not. Now I'm going to be very fair. and not say it's a big hallmark of the BSV community, because it's not, but a big hallmark of Craig Wright specifically is this anti-crypto, pro-regulation, pro-government kind of a thing, which is very strange being as BSV is a crypto, but somehow the only maxis that are into the Bitcoin not crypto weird line are the Bitcoin BTC maximalists and somehow the BSV maximalists, who are like way down the list, just try to do that. But I think that is kind of funny. It's, yeah, crypto army.
Really quick, I don't want to deviate from this, but I've been seeing that you interact with the BSV community quite a lot lately. Yeah, I don't want to like go in a whole tangent here, but I just wanted to ask you, like, quickly, pros and cons of BSV in your mind.
Yeah, so the pros and cons, the definite pro is the technology is simple and has been around for like 15 years now, kind of. Like, it's based on some like very, like, I would rudimentary sounds like negative. I don't mean to say it like that, but some very well tested base assumptions. The other good thing is I've always been in favor of on-chain scaling, and obviously, and a lot of people now, like, for example, Justin Bonds, are advocates of on-chain scaling, but are kind of more into like the sharding kind of thing. Like, we need to get into sharding and stuff like that. Whereas BSV has handled recently, I think, like 40 million transactions in a single day. And I get that it's like just a couple of nodes. I get that it's a lot of weird spam transactions and stuff. But just proving the point that you can cram blocks, huge blocks full of stuff, and put them out there. It's like a I don't want to be mean, but it's like a shitty test net for the rest of crypto, you know. But that's a compliment that you can learn. Oh, look, they've shown you can do this, and like, oh, they've shown we can do this. That's like the base. And then the other pro is basically how Ethereum and the entire crypto space really came out of a bunch of ideas that people wanted to do, but they couldn't do on Bitcoin. And as soon as people got it in their head they didn't need to do it on Bitcoin, there was an explosion in creativity and innovation. And the same thing we kind of see with, like, you know, everyone wanted to do stuff on Ethereum, but then it became slow and expensive, and then they were trying other things. BSV has a lot of that same energy of no limits, we'll just do whatever. And a bunch of people are building innovative app, or were, I don't know how much today, but we're building innovative things on it because of that. Now, of course, the downsides are, I think that it's an insecure protocol because of no hash rate. I think it's got a lot of limitations that haven't been sort of solved. The biggest limitation is a psychological limitation, which is we can't change and innovate on chain. And I think you need to change and innovate on chain or you're going to die. It's just that simple, right? You need to keep fixing things. You need to keep improving. You need to keep experimenting. And obviously you can be conservative in your approach, but you can't just like,
right.
And there's a bunch of other weird stuff like the whole
everything related to Craig Wright, of course.
Well, there's that. That's part of BSV, but that's not all of it. But the big thing is the whole thing of like where 51% attacks don't exist. It's like, no, come on, dude, they do. And they're like, well, but the main chain is, you know, I don't know, a bunch of weird stuff. So there's that. Okay, let's hit this next one. This is actually a surprise thing that I just saw as we started the show. Bittrex US is shutting down April 30th. So April 29th, 29th, 2023 will be the last full day customers will be able to withdraw their cryptocurrency. This is also the last day customers will have access to their accounts. After this date, new user accounts will be disabled and remain blah, blah, blah. The Bittrex US platform will fully stop operating at 12 p.m. noon PDT on April 30th. Wow. So, what do you make of this real quick? Might have had some connection issues, but let me just tell you what I make of this. This is pretty crazy. Bittrex is one of the bigger, kind of like more established old school exchanges, kind of going dark in the US, is kind of a foreshadowing of like, I mean, you just saw Elizabeth Warren's whole thing going on, right? That's kind of a sign that there's a lot of big pressures in the U.S. It's not just current regulators, but there's a lot of pressures to continue on this dark path of regulation. And the thing is, crypto is going to be okay, right? Crypto is going to be fine. The thing is, U.S.-based crypto institutions will not necessarily be fine if they get regulated into oblivion. So I guess what this whole thing is demonstrating here is that a lot of companies, let me just hit to this other news thing. A lot of companies are definitely reevaluating the longevity of their position in the U.S. Because, I mean, think about that. If you're going to just run a business in the U.S. and a lot of these exchanges, the thing is the securities angle is the one that's really harming a lot of these exchanges, because just as a simple fiat on-ramp where people buy crypto and then they can sell it sometimes. By the way, Carlos just commented, says, Craig Wright dropped me. He's, I don't think he has that much power, but maybe Elizabeth Warren dropped him. That's a different story. But anyway, the
about that,
is,
I got dropped.
Yeah, no problem. I was just talking about this next one about Bittrex shutting down.
Bittrex shutting down, yeah.
Did you see that one? Yeah.
No, I did not.
I ranted for like a couple minutes. Why don't you let me know what you think about this?
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not an American, so like, a lot of what's happening in crypto right now is very American, and it does seem like the Bitcoin price has developed some sort of resistance to America-centered issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like at least lately, it does seem like nothing is shaking. Yeah, you know, like whatever you want to say about the price, but it's kind of like the flagship for like what's the overall sentiment, and it doesn't seem to be touched by stuff happening in the U.S. anymore, which is good because they are on a full-on war with crypto. Now, following Nick Carter, I see that he's been posting a lot about Operation Chokepoint this, Operation Chokepoint that. You see that there's very clearly a line of attack. I'm curious, as an American, how do you feel? Because it does seem like America is in more than one way losing its grip on the world, and I'm not sure how good or bad of a thing that is.
Yeah, so my perspective on that, first of all, I'm a little bit different in that because, first off, I'm a dual citizen. I'm U.S. and Mexican citizen, even though I've been living in the U.S. for 20 years at least, like uninterrupted, and my Spanish sucks today. Give me a month back in Mexico, I'll be back. But just because of that doesn't, change the perspective. But also, I consider myself more of an American generally, and more of a Granite Stater, as in a New Hampshire person, more specifically. And I honestly do not care for or like or care about the longevity of the U.S. federal government at all. So like,
okay.
Because of that, so just giving that caveat of like my personal perspective is I love that the dollar's hegemony is collapsing around the world. I love all that stuff. Of course, if it does lead to places like China getting more power in a way that harms people and freedom around the world, of course I think that's a bad thing. I'm not being stupid like that. But generally speaking, I think I view the U.S. government as a hostile actor and not part of me, like not something that I really support. And so I think it's great. The average American, I think, views things a little differently, but I think that the average American crypto person is probably very frustrated right now and is basically saying like, look, other countries are getting the money that should be here. We want to start companies here, but all the money and the talent is going elsewhere. And I think that that's a really good, like I just mentioned with the whole Bittrex thing. I think that so what's happening is you can run a money services business legally according to the way the laws of work for a while. I don't think they work, but whatever. You can do that for a while. The problem is these exchanges do not make money, in my opinion. Again, I don't run an exchange, but if I phoned up CZ right now, which I can't because I don't have his number, but I told him, like, look, how much money do you make with people on, like, connecting their bank account and buying some crypto or selling it? That's probably a minority of their revenue. Probably most of the revenue comes from, for those who participate in the practice, listing fees, for one, but also from trades between coins. And a lot of traders, like professional speculators, give them a lot in fee revenue. And if most of the assets listed on their platform start to be called securities and they start getting sued by regulators because of they're just doing business, they would, like, there's no clarity as far as which asset is not a security. So basically it could be Bitcoin. The government could say Bitcoin's a security, you can't sell it without now you're being sued for $100 million or whatever. And so they're just like...
Gensler kind of hinted on going for Ethereum, didn't he?
Yeah, after the previous SEC administration, as far as I remember, the previous one, had said that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities, and specifically had said on Ethereum that maybe it started as a security, but wouldn't be today. And so this regulatory uncertainty is like, look, we could do business anywhere. We're just going to do it elsewhere.
Yeah, but like all that, I'm like, I think you're right about like the collapse of the dollar as like the ruling currency and all that. I don't think that, like, this is one thing that I see people kind of get wrong. People attribute this prophetic value to everything that Balaji says. When, in my opinion, he's very good at describing problems, but he's not that good at like characterizing solutions. When the COVID thing happened, I remember that he was suggesting some things that were pretty off the cuff and were even like a lot worse than what we ended up having to do for COVID. And I reckon that's one big part of the whole equation that people ignore. That's just like, okay, he's right about the problem because the problem is based on some evidence. Where do we go to solve this, or what's the solution to this? I don't think anyone's got the capability to come up with that or to predict that. And Bitcoin to 1 million seems to have a lot of issues that, at least in my mind, do not make it like the best solution if that happens.
Yeah. So what do you think how much did he bet on that? I don't remember.
He bet 2 million, and he put 2 million on the line. I reckon like it's a very dumb bet if you look at it as a bet, in that it can be very easily arbitraged. So whatever. I mean, it's he's trying to make a point. He's spending 2 million on a campaign for that point. Seems to be getting all the attention he wants, but I don't think the solution is necessarily Bitcoin to 1 million.
Yeah, it's also like an arbitrary number, right? Because 1 million could be worth very different amounts in the future, right? Like, how about 1 million bolivars?
Well, like I run the calculation, and with the level of inflation that you would experience if something like that happened, your purchasing power would not be multiplied by 40, which is like what he forecasted. It would be more like 15. But even like that, you suddenly have a lot of people that are completely doxed. All their on-chain data is very easily traceable, and they're new millionaires. I just wonder how many people would get kidnapped after that happened.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the Balaji bet, I think it's just he's trying to get attention, and there's some profit motive out of the attention. Maybe he just has a big bag of Bitcoin, and he wants to see how far the speculation, man, this guy's so serious. He's putting so much money on the line, and then driving up the speculation, and he's going to like dump on everyone and make more than 2 million. I don't know.
I don't know a lot of people that are very serious in crypto that take him very seriously. That doesn't seem to be the case, at least when I open behind. I mean, when I talk behind closed doors with people that have been here for a long time.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's hit on the Bitcoin skull thing. So, anyone who's been around recently has seen this like Bitcoin skull that Greenpeace hired some artist to make a skull with Bitcoin glowing laser eyes with a smokestack coming up, and the artist behind it. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole Twitter thread; that'd be a little nuts. But basically, the whole story of this thing was just the piece was not meant to be as anti-Bitcoin as people would have thought, just to like start kind of a conversation and stuff. And has kind of this is kind of like a good summary right here. Is Greenpeace? Well, I don't agree that what the person is saying, but Greenpeace believes that human ingenuity and innovation will prevail, and that a better version of Bitcoin exists in the future that has all the upsides and none of the environmental downsides. Bitcoiners believe that Bitcoin will never change its code unless the existential risk. Instead of fighting it, join it, improve it from within, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff. So it's basically like a pro-Bitcoin stance after investigating, after making this thing. But like a pro-Bitcoin but anti-environmental damage stance still. But basically, yeah, like it's kind of funny, this skull ended up being just some like dumb kind of Elizabeth Warren style nonsense. And then the Bitcoiners just adopted it, like, yeah, we're the skull people. And
They fucking loved it.
there's just a lot in the middle of all this that like we could be talking about. And so, well, first of all, what do you think of the skull and the environment?
Whole thing?
Yeah, just of everything.
Man, there's a very cringy shade of Bitcoin maximalist, which is the type of like doesn't. I mean, like that doesn't believe in climate change or whatever. Yeah, you can say whatever you want about that, because people have a lot of opinions. But like, there's this type where like they just go overboard and they're like, "Yeah, let's fucking destroy it, man! Bitcoin mining." That really seemed to have appealed these kind of people. So it was really funny to see like them becoming like the school people and just like going so crazy about it. Overall, I mean, I don't think Greenpeace intended for this to go like that, but I think they get a pretty good bang for their buck, man. I don't think they expected so many people to be talking about this in that way. That's a huge success for them. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do think it's kind of at the point where it's kind of like people. Do you remember when Elon Musk became big? When it wasn't just, oh, there's this guy, PayPal and Tesla and stuff. When he started to become like the cult of personality started to get big, which is going to be kind of fun because I think that's actually like the next point here. But back then everyone all of a sudden has something to say about him, especially when the whole Twitter stuff came. Like he's buying Twitter, and then he's tweeting a base thing. Everyone just wants to like, then Doge, oh my gosh, Doge. Everyone gets on like. It's the same thing where something like crypto, but especially Bitcoin, because a lot of people are very, like, crypto's so diverse and nuanced. And Bitcoin, in people's minds, because of, I guess, the maximalists and what they push out there, is a very, like, concrete thing people can talk about and not like. And so people's like, Bitcoin's awesome, Bitcoin's terrible. And so now it's a big enough topic of conversation that everyone's just going to get attached to it. Everyone's going to be like, I'm like, my company is like what Bitcoin is to finance, or, but Bitcoin was to finance. My company is to the fast food industry, whatever they're doing. They're just going to try to jump onto that clout. And then everyone's going to be like, top 10 like red flags in dating profiles. Number one, he's a Bitcoin bro. Ooh, like people are just gonna like.
That is true.
Well, I mean, yeah, I hate to say it, it's probably true, but when people like, it's become a thing that people just want to say something about for attention. And so Greenpeace, like, I don't know, they weren't getting attention, so they're like Bitcoin, and then now they got attention. Elizabeth Warren wasn't getting attention, so now she's like, Rrr. And then now, like, especially because her whole, sorry to go back to story number one, but her whole point was like the anti-Wall Street person. and she's done nothing to help the everyman. And so, especially with all these bank collapses and everything, like just so in order to keep her brand relevant, she has to like find something else that's like a bigger, more evil capitalist threat. And so she's, this is topical. And so you go after this. And that's what crypto's just going to be for a while. This like hot potato, whoop, 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 just throw around. Everyone's talking about it, whether or not they have anything to actually say.
You're right, man, because like I was listening to this interview with the author of the book Atomic Habits. You know that book's pretty popular. And one of his marketing strategies was to just try to go after niches that were super passionate about whatever they were about. So he would go after Bitcoiners, he would go after vegans, he would go after like CrossFit dudes, people that just don't seem to fucking shut up about whatever they're into. And it really panned out for him because like when you do something for those circles, they just like cannot stop talking about it because it's the new thing in their world. There are a few things like that, but Bitcoin is very easy for like these political movements because it represents money and it represents your ability to transact freely. It also represents like a lot of bad things like speculation, gambling. It's really, really attractive.
Yeah.
I think if I was a politician, I would be talking about Bitcoin for sure. Well, you see this Bukele guy, like who in the world knew the name of El Salvador's president?
Yeah.
Ever.
How many, like usually a big sign of stay the hell away from this country is anything related to dictatorship and sending and amending the Constitution to like to stay in power longer and sending armed people into the legislature, those kinds of things. But when you become laser-eyed Bitcoin bro, all of a sudden people are willing to forgive all that and they're just all jumping in.
All of that.
It's kind of a funny lightning rod. Hilawe had a super chat thing here about the SEC. He says, I think Gensler is trying to make sure the big banks control buying and selling and custody of crypto, like they do with other commodity stocks and bonds. Eventually, I speculate his goal is to make self-custody as difficult as possible for the regular person. Yes. I think yes. What do you think?
Rollout of CBDC, I think, is priority number one there. They somehow do not want I don't know, like in my mind, they sort of do not want the CBDC to be like an alert for everyone to just go jump into self-custody. Of course, yeah, they making it hard is the problem. But I think this is going to be one of those cases where like by censoring something, you empower it and you make it more popular. I really think the way they're doing this is not going to pan out for them.
Of course.
When they roll out the CBDC.
Yeah, I think that this is also the SEC was created to, I guess, regulate or, screw around with a lot of like the trade of assets and things like that. And there's these things called cryptos or tokens or whatever that are not securities. They're just something else and don't apply. And so I think the SEC is struggling to see the whole world of what they used. Like no one's going to do a regulated security in decentralized crypto now, because why would just do easier, fewer requirements, etc. There's going to be very few regulated securities, so they're trying to be like, no, we still control everything. But the problem is they're struggling to come up with arguments as to why they have the legal authority to control everything. So they're in this weird position where they're trying to like, we're not telling you, but we're not saying specifically, but like we're still suing projects, but we're not telling them which rules they broke because we won't tell them what the rules are. And they're in this weird little zone where they're trying to just wait until they can find out a good strategy to go and that allows them to cast this big net and just collect everything. But yeah, they're going to be struggling for a while.
Remember when we were in the deep bear market and people thought like tokenized securities were going to be the next big thing? That now, okay, forget about the ICO craziness. Now you're just going to go issue a security on the blockchain. Like anyone that's running a crypto project wants to go through that. That was so not going to happen.
It's insane. Let's switch these last couple things in the last couple minutes. First of all, ignore the picture, but Elon Musk joins hundreds calling for a 6-month pause on AI development in an open letter. So we've known Elon Musk has been critical of AI for a while, or not critical, but like scared of where it could go. And so he's basically they joined hundreds, causing an open letter to, or we could face profound risks to society and humanity. Real quick, your thought on this one, real quick,
man. I think it's good they're putting a handbrake on this thing now. I think like GPT-4 is nowhere close like a real intelligence, but I don't know. Why not think about it? I don't think it's too complex a topic to like condense. But I don't really feel like people are going to listen to this. Like, if anything, you're just gonna be giving a head start to people that want to use it or they just want to jailbreak it.
Yeah.
So I don't see no stop to this right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Elon understands a lot of things very well. It's a really unoriginal take to say he's quite intelligent and thoughtful. However, I don't think he understands enough about the way the free market works to understand that as soon as you try to, like, if the demand is there, the supply will be there. If people want this tool, they're going to keep building on it because it's powerful. Someone's going to build on it. If you try to stop it here, whoop, it all goes somewhere else. And then people who might not have the best interests of the human race at heart, or who might be reckless, will be the ones developing and controlling all this. So I'm not smart enough to fully understand all the ins and outs of AI and what could possibly happen. But I do understand that if this goes wrong, humanity could be obsoleted, or more importantly, an AI could, like we saw what Bing did when Bing lost his shit at everyone. Like, what if Bing has nuclear codes? Just nuking the whole, like, I understand. What I would say, this is like nuclear energy and weapons, where you can't just say no to it, but you got to be really careful at how you do it, or you could erase the human species. So the thing is, I don't think the right solution here is just saying, no, we can't. Everyone stop. Let's think about it. It's like, no, how about everyone push forward, but you got to make sure you're developing safeguards and understandings and things like that faster than everyone else is just developing capability. So I would be like more of an AI reprioritization, but you can't stop it. You can't start stopping it, or you can't try. That's not how the world works.
That's really tricky, man, because like, how do you, you can develop like safeguards. How do you make sure that other people put them in place, or like take them into consideration, or don't develop their own thing? I guess like at this point, AI is the kind of thing where like it's a big to niche, where like it's not like you can have a single person developing it their own. Like, you basically need a corporation, and that's very hard to have flying under the radar. But once these things become smart enough to teach people how to create more of them, who knows?
Yeah. Well, that's final Elon point, and then we wrap it up. He tweeted out, algorithm goes open source at noon Pacific time. So I assume that means the Twitter algorithm, and noon Pacific time is like an hour ago almost. So,
oh really? Did it already go live?
I mean, this sounds like what he's saying.
Let me see.
Let me just look up real quick.
I mean, if the algorithm went live, that means they finally cleaned it up of all the bullshit, and people are now going to scrutinize it. Well, Elon is in the Spaces right now, so it does seem like it's happening. Twitter open source Spaces discussion happening right now.
Put it right there.
And right below it, there's the algorithm in GitHub, yeah.
Yep, GitHub. Twitter recommendations source code algorithm available to all on GitHub, which is, I got to say, fantastic. I love open source technology is clearly being on this, running shit, being in crypto, obviously. I don't know what the profit model for Twitter is to allow, because Twitter's, I think, is a really good idea. Like, I think that as far as all the social medias, Twitter's my favorite. And letting others easily compete with it, I don't know how that's going to work out profitability wise, but it's, I don't know, it's nice. It's nice to see. It's nice to see some. I mean, who would have thought right in the beginning, like right in 2020 or so, when social media censorship was at an all-time high and everything was looking bad and all this kind of stuff. Hey, guess what? In 3 short years, Elon Musk is going to buy Twitter and open source the algorithm. People would be like, get out of here. What are you talking about? But it happened.
Dude, since Elon bought this thing, do you like Twitter more or less?
Well,
in your personal experience using the app, besides like the whole story.
I find that hard to answer. I think I would, let's just say I like it more, because
I would say I like it more as well.
Yeah, because there's some things I have not liked it more. It's broken a lot more. My Twitter Spaces experience is broken in the middle of Spaces. It's annoyed me. There's been a few things like the whole Twitter Blue thingy, because I've never been a Blue user in the past, and now it's becoming harder to not be. But then also I did try it for some other account that I support. I tried to do that, and it just, they never gave the check mark. They just took my money and stuff, and I'm like, so that was when they're figuring it out. That was like right in the beginning. So a lot of this chaos has not been good, but on the whole, I think it's been better. So yeah, I mean, especially because now it's open source, some people are going to look at it and be like, I don't like that. We should do things differently. And they'll just tweet at them. They'll be like, okay, that seems reasonable. And they'll just change it. And they'll be like, oh, wow. Everything got better. All right, time to wrap this thing up. It's shill-o'clock. What are you going to shill?
Okay.
Shill everything you want.
What am I going to shill? I'm going to shill, I would say, just my Twitter, man. People go follow me on Twitter, Carlos Cancab. Jump on there. I never tweet, but it's nice to see new followers. So yeah, chilling that.
Yep. All right. Carlos Cancab. So yeah, follow him on Twitter. He doesn't tweet enough, but I'll shame him into it. Did you buy Twitter yet? Buy the premium yet?
I have not. Maybe if I did, I would be using it more, because I forced myself to buy ChatGPT in order to use it more, and I have. So I think I'll do the same thing.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks very much for being on. Have a happy weekend. Thanks everyone for watching. It's the Dash Podcast next with the Dash Incubator with a lot of cool development stuff. So that'll be fun to watch. Everyone else, have a great weekend. I'll see you guys next week, and peace out.